Hello and welcome to the Smart Women in Business vlog and podcast. I'm your host, Jay Mackay from Jay Mackay Communications, marketing consultant and coach who works with people across the world to build the business of their dreams. Today, I am talking to my friend, John Cachia. A bit controversial. He is the first male guest ever to be on this pod. John is the founder and managing director and principal financial advisor of AFA Group Wealth. John began working in the finance industry in 2003, aged just 14, when he started working at his cousin's financial advisory business. In 2009, aged 20, with the backing of another organisation, John decided the time had come to strike out on his own and founded AFA Group Wealth. Since then, John has built a thriving business that now employs 12 people and works with hundreds of clients every year. Sorry if I completely garbled that, but I'm sure you'll be able to clarify stuff for me. Sure. I'm very excited to have you on the show, John, because I've known you a while now on the interwebs. And I have a great admiration for your passion for your industry, because I rarely come across people who are so passionate about their industry. So tell me about your journey to get where you are today at the very young age of like 30 something. You have built this amazing business.
Well, first and foremost, Jane, thanks for having me. Obviously being invited as the first male guest on a woman's podcast, I actually feel quite thankful, grateful for it. I think that, first I just want to thank you. Listen, my journey's been, for me, quite normal, and for most, it's actually not normal. And what I mean by that is, this is something that I do every day. I love what I do. I found a passion for it from a very young age, obviously being 14. But when I was 14, I didn't think I was young. I thought I was the 14-year-old going on to 44 and I could take over the world. And, that was the 14-year-old I was. I just happened to go and do work experience at my cousin's financial planning practice. And it was a very different practice to what we do, let's be honest, but it opened the doors to the potential of what it could be. And I was able to apply, my skill set, which I look back, it's in hindsight, I knew what that was now, but back then it wasn't. It was just, work hard and learn about money. And I think that from a very young age, I was a problem solver. And so, being able to look at people's finances, solve that problem, it ended up flourishing and developing. And so over time, and we're not talking about me being old, looking back, probably by the time I was about 18, I was running a few staff at that position. I was in a quite senior role, and, really, pushing the envelope in regards to innovation in the industry already. I remember back then in my late teenage years and in early 20s, I was off teaching other financial advisors the power of social media and what that looks like. And they started to use social media to kind of get themselves, out there. But then right upon that kind of 18 to 20 time, not that I lost the passion, I just hated the direction of the industry, and where it was headed. And these were things that, and we're talking about, what are we talking here? We're talking 2008, 2009. We're talking GFC here. We're talking that a lot of large organisations started to get exposed for what they really were, and it didn't hit Australia. Let's be honest. Like, in the whole scheme of things, we're talking about, yes, financial markets were hit, but the exposure of the toxic kind of ways, weren't done until Royal Commission. 3 or 4 years ago. So I think that was the seeds for me to go, I've got to do it John's way. And my values are very much aligned. Obviously, you've known me for quite a lot of time, but my values are really aligned to, trustworthiness, honesty, integrity, fairness, competence, and diligence. And I found myself fighting against this, in this financial world where it's about greed and trying to get to the top, and it doesn't matter who's in your path, get them out your way. I'm fighting against this. And so being 20, I wanted to start a business that was around these values. And now in hindsight, I didn't sit down there and write my values tree and do all of that. It was more about, this is the person I am.
Yeah.
Let's really talk about it. And if you don't mind me sharing, a lot of these come from, my grandfather, who came from Malta many, many, many years ago. He was a handshake man, and he used to drive me in his old 1960 odd Valiant, every morning to school, take him. And we'd always rock up a little bit earlier because we had to clean the church before we started school. Okay. So I was kind of molded, by a guy that was all about a handshake man, all about do things greater for everyone else, and it will come back in spades. Be the person that, people don't necessarily look up to because of the cars they drive or the money they have. Okay. Be that person that's that real value orientated kind of person. Now, my grandfather wasn't educated. Okay. So the way that I was taught that was by his actions. He used to show me, and once he passed away in 2015, 2014, 15, it really, what really showed me was when he actually passed away, his funeral was absolutely packed. Okay. And it made me to go, you know what? Everything he said during life showed me that people are paying their respects afterwards. John, what do you and your business want to be remembered for? And then as soon as this happened, we started really kind of unlocking the shackles, and really trying to just build a business that was focused around the pure values of what I've just gone through, and really about changing people's lives. How can we rock up to work every single day and in this amazing job where we're able to change people's lives, actually make this happen? And then 2021, here I am. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey over the last 18 years, being in the financial game. But I can truly say now we've got a value orientated business that helps clients to realize their dreams and aspirations, which is, for me, not work. This is amazing that I get to do this.
And it's just so, it flies in the face of what, and how you work flies in the face of what finance has a reputation for, which is the greed and the Wolf of Wall Street and all of that. Whereas you're like, I'm going to show up with integrity, do the best for my clients. It's not about the fancy car or the big house. It's about what can I help them create in their lives, which is just so different to what the reputation is of the finance industry, which, let's face things, a little bit boring to normal people. But you just are like, the way I've seen you do your work is it's creative, which is completely different to rubber stamping things and going, yeah, there's your financial plan. You go, all right, how are we going to make this interesting? It's about achieving goals and creating a legacy and all of that, which I found really interesting in the way you operate. So your business, so you've been in the industry now for 18 years, but how has your business evolved over time, and where were the signs for you that things needed to change for you and in your business?
So early on, it was just about putting food on the table. And though I didn't have a lot of expenses, my father said to me, even at 20, he goes, listen, John, you're on your own. Yeah. It's the best time to do it. You don't have kids, you don't have a wife, just give it a good old crack. And so I did. But I found myself with no direction, really. I was just trying to get clients, get any client I kind of could. And as the business kind of evolved, I started to align myself with a few different people in the industry, call them, mentors, acquaintances, whatever you wanted to call it. And I kind of just started to shape the business. And I think what probably really kind of changed, we're talking 2009, I started the business probably by about 2013. So 4 years later, the business started to establish itself to the point where I didn't need to worry about going out and finding a client. Yeah. The word about what I could do and my abilities and whatnot, call them, were starting to spread. And word of mouth really started to, get some groundswell. And so I started to be a bit more selective, tried to work out what my actual crafts were. I think people starting out in business think that it might be this. Yeah. But it was actually this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then about, we're talking and the business was very much early on was traditional financial planning, which was sort out person's superannuation, consolidate it, try and save on fees and charges, do a couple of basic strategies, and maybe get them some personal insurance because they need to protect their family. We're talking 2013 now, being heavily focused in regards to strategic advice, but still nowhere where we are today. And I remember a mentor of mine coming into my office and saying to me, John, if the government comes in tomorrow and says that you can't be paid by product, and the guys obviously with 2021, different story, but if you can't be paid by product, will your business survive? And at that point in time, I looked at it and said, questionable. Yeah. I'd be hit real hard. So from about 2013 onwards, I'm like, how am I going to deliver so much value to my client? I became client obsessed. How am I going to give so much value so that that client will pay regardless of the way that they have to pay? Is it through product? Is it straight out of their bank account? Whatever it is. And so then the early murmurs of this Royal Commission started. Yeah. And I got a lot of my training done from one of the big major 4 banks. Okay. And so I started to question what I was trained. Okay. And I started to go outside of the 4 walls of bank training, which most financial advisors got their training from. And I started to look internationally, and I started to look at what can I do to learn from some of the greatest minds. So now I've moved from client obsession to successful entrepreneur. And you got to remember, I'm still like mid-20s at this
You're a baby.
So, and I look back, but my brain's still a sponge. It's not, I've got still a lot kind of coming in, and so I started to really do that, and I started to look outside, and I started to go, all right, well, this is what I need to do. And the common goal with financial advice for successful financial advisory businesses was goal-based, value-based financial advice. And there's a guy named Bill Backrack who is in the US. He's kind of been the pioneer in this, kind of took a lot of his stuff through, but also got outside the industry. You look at like the Tony Robbins and all of these stuff, and they're very much this. And so started to put the pieces together. But what I found with a lot of these organizations, or even these people, they still weren't John. I had to put John's flavor on it. Yeah, we're talking about my grandfather and the person I am. And it was just about, yes, we're doing goal-based, value-based financial advice, but we need to do it with John's flavor, which, is about my values.
Yeah.
And so, come 2016, 17, fast forward a bit, I was invited to go to Stanford. Okay. So how it works is for the listeners here is that you get kind of in the financial advice game, they kind of select, their aspiring or good financial advisors, and they handpick them and they send them to Stanford to go do a little bit of study. Okay. So I got invited to go, and I was actually invited 2 years prior, and I said, nah, I'm too busy. And I kicked myself. Yeah.
Do you think that was imposter syndrome or a lack of confidence, or you just went, nah?
Probably looking back now, it was probably that I thought that I wasn't in that group. Yeah. I you know me, but for the people that don't know me, I'm probably beat myself up a bit. Yeah. And so glad I went to Stanford.
Yeah.
Because when I went to Stanford, I was like a kid at a candy store. Yeah. I literally was so excited. I couldn't keep a smile off my face. And for most people, what we were learning was the most boring stuff you'll ever learn in your life.
That's why I'm laughing. I'm like, it'd kill me, man.
Yeah, but I was learning about some of the greatest things. Yeah. And then when I came back, it was that 2 weeks that I needed for innovation. It was that 2 weeks that was the game changer. And when I came back like ready to go. And so from 2017, growth in the business has been absolutely phenomenal. We've gone from 3 or 4 workers to 12. I've just hired another 3, and we're not just hiring people obviously for the sake of hiring. This is because that groundswell of that client advocate is in full motion. And where that comes from, it comes from being Alfred in Batman, and for people that aren't Batman kind of orientated, or, think about James Bond and he's got Q in the background, and that's that team or that person that will look around corners you can't see. We'll be there to help you fight the fight. We'll be there to, console you when they need to console you. And so that's what I tried to create. And now in 2021, seeing that come to fruition is a big, one, I'm very, very happy to see it, but it is very, very, what's the word? The first one's coming. It's very nice to see it, but it's more than that. Yeah.
It's like humbling.
It's very humbling to see it, because it means that, I've got families who are entrusting their financial future with us, and they're seeing it come to fruition. And so it's not just a matter of them having the leap of faith now. They're now starting to see those seeds that they planted actually start fruiting. Yeah. And I tell my clients, we can't control what happens in markets. I can't control what happens in the stock market, or I can't control what happens in the property market. But what we can control, accountability, education, proactivity, objectivity, stuff like this. All of those controllables are now inside the business, and each and every one of those team members are helping deliver that. And I'm now finding my purpose, which is now in regards to education. And so I probably didn't find that until probably the last year or two. But if I could put food on the table and provide for my life in some way or fashion, and didn't have to charge people and continue to educate people about financial literacy, I would. It's one of those things I just love doing. And now working with a charitable organization called Friends in Me, which is my latest kind of thing. We're going to be focusing on, kids, and, helping them to, kind of harness their superpowers, as I call it. And be one of those ones where maybe I can try to educate them on, things that might not be taught at school. And obviously one of the obvious ones is money, entrepreneurship, business. So now I'm really trying to start building my legacy stuff, and maybe that's my grandfather, kind of coming into me, and leaving that. So, John was remembered for that type of person he was.
Because we're not taught money at school. We come into adulthood with no financial skills, other than we had a Dolomite account foisted upon us by the Combank in prep or whatever, and that's it. There's
best marketing strategy you've probably seen from CBA.
I know. Let's not talk about that indoctrination, because it's really interesting, because we're not taught that. And you, I know that you go into schools and you teach kids, and the thing about, so you and I have obviously had conversations in the past about money mindset and teaching your kids to have a better financial outlook on life than we grew up with, say, and equipping them with the skills to then make good strategic financial decisions. But that's not something that we had.
It's when people kind of think about it, most people in Australia anyway, you've got kind of the 1950s, 1960s kind of migrants from Europe. You've got the Australians and the Poms probably before then, but we didn't have a big, large kind of population of mega wealthy, successful entrepreneurs. It was very much a very, very small percentage. So our education system is built on, teaching English, maths and whatnot, but we don't have a lot of people in the country that are teaching about entrepreneurship, money management, wealth creation. And so the education system did what it needed to do, educated us on where we need to kind of get to as a society. And we have a massive middle class who's okay. But what got left is this whole wealth creation, trying to kind of what to do with the money, so we've got this massive kind of middle class.
We've got all of the European migrants. For example, my friend's grandma hides cash in her house all over the place. And that's that legacy of having been through the war and the upheaval that has Europe has endured over centuries effectively, and it's wild.
It is. And so you've got this is what you've got this kind of coming into this middle class, and then you've got all of these different ways of this mindset that, has been now, indoctrinated, into generations. So when you look at my grandparents, for example, Malta, 4 years, the Nazis and the Italians every single day bombed your country. For them, food, shelter, called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is the survival. And when you have that much trauma, when you then come to Australia, you don't lose all that trauma.
Trauma doesn't go anywhere.
You band-aid it in most cases if you don't try and fight that stuff. So you go from my grandparents who are like money hoarders, which is most people, money hoarders, to then my parents, for example, who are a little bit looser and maybe enjoy life a little bit more, but are still taught by these parents, you're going to have a poor money mindset, So for me, not that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, in my game you can, okay? But for me to get the most impact, it's to help them that next generation. So you've got the baby boomers who are now going into retirement, pre-retirement. They do have, in most cases, a large sum of money. Okay. Is it invested correctly? Is it set up correctly? Is another topic.
Let's not go there.
But we're going to have in history around the world, because of World War II and World War One, the biggest intergenerational wealth exchange in history. And I knew this from a very young age, And so I have become a specialist in that next generation. When that wealth passes over, I want to have the smartest, most educated, individuals. So when that money passes over, it goes into this wealth creation framework with this mindset that is second to none to absolutely take them to the next level. And people can see this. They can see this more than ever now. That massive middle class is splitting up. And this is the same in the UK. It's the same in the US. It's all over the world. This middle class end up breaking up, which is unfortunate because I do believe in the fair distribution of income. But it is breaking up. And the poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer. But in that group, call it the 10 years either way, I'm 35. That group there have the time, and have the ability to change their family's future forever if they're willing to change the way they think about it.
For all generations to come. So we are that key generation. I say we, I think you and I are actually different generations, but we are that key generation that's going to flip the money story for our families. And it is a huge responsibility. And if you get it wrong, we're going to be right back where we were, 2 centuries ago, broke.
Correct.
Which is scary. Anyway, responsibility is crushing. So, how do you manage your life? I know you work incredibly hard and have a beautiful wife and 2 beautiful boys. How do you manage your life as an entrepreneur from Noah's room? Is it Noah's room you're in or Leon's?
This is Noah's / should be Leon's, but we got hijacked, so we traded. He took my room and I took his. So anyway, being
John, I'll just explain to people, John's in Melbourne, so he's in lockdown for the last 2 years.
Listen, I'm a family man. Okay, when it boils it down to, I love being surrounded by my wife and my kids. Don't get me wrong. I'd like to be out of lockdown. I'd like to be going and seeing the world and exploring and doing all the things and the fun things we did prior to lockdown. But I try to take the positives out of it. I try to say that, I'm able to see my boys every single day, happy and healthy with their dad in here, And yeah, they jump in and they Zoom bomb the situation and they jump on a knee and, but that's all a part of it. And so, a lot of my clients are fully aware of the scenario, and that's the people that I associate with. So that's one. Two, I'm a big one over quality over quantity. And so they can't get quantity. They know that. Okay. My father was an entrepreneur. He taught me a lot of what I know today, and I didn't have a lot of quantity from him. But in hindsight, I had quality. And so my dad, a little bit of interesting facts about John. My dad's a pigeon racer. Okay, races pigeons. Okay, that was his thing. Okay, so to race the pigeons, you've got to obviously train them. And one of the ways you train them is you put them in baskets and you jump in a car with a trailer behind you and you go off and you drive an hour or so away. And then you let those birds go and they kind of race home. I think I could probably do a whole Zoom session on racing pigeons. But the gist of the story is I used to wake up mega early with my dad because what you want to try and do is get him just before daybreak, or on sunset so that they're racing really home. Okay, so I'd wake up at the crack of dawn, didn't want to get up, and my dad jump in there because I just wanted to be around dad because I didn't see him during the week, and so we'd be on these drives with my dad, and we'd be just bonding, just talking like mates, and I kind of look back and I say, I was really, really fortunate to have a grandfather and a grandmother who actually lived next door to me and were able to be so close to me. My mum was, really caring mother, did absolutely everything for me. I was the baby of the family. So, there's talks about I was the favorite. But I had this dad who was, worked very, very hard, but tried to give me quality over quantity. And if I'm going to shape my family's financial future, well-being forever, it's got to be quality over quantity. And so, I'm the affectionate father. I'm the father that will, wake up with them, put them to bed. I'm the one that tries to do activities with them, but it's just the quantity that I can't give them. So, but they're my best friends as well. And, they're a bit young, they're 4.5 and 2.5, but, I've already warned my wife, they're going to be probably doing all the fun stuff that, I did when I was young and they can't wait. So, and I think that also has helped actually going back to financial advice. Some people are a little bit apprehensive to go see a financial advisor because they think that they're going to be on some strict diet. Strict financial diet, or it's going to change my life and I can't live it.
I'm not going to be able to buy any more shoes.
Correct. So for me, that's not the case. I look at it, the way that I deliver my advice is the exact same that I would do for my family. And so, I'm here once and I want to live pretty good. I want to look back on my life and say it was a pretty happy one. And so, even when it comes to the financial advice, it needs to be shaped between, their lifestyle and their financial requirements. And I actually say this to clients as we're walking through the process is you won't necessarily benchmark me on the number of dollars that are in your bank account or in your investments. It's actually the quality of life that you've actually lived. So that if we're, 20, 30, 40 years away, whenever that is, and we're sitting together, having a drink and, celebrating our, you probably, in a, celebrating our journey together, it'll be based on how good your life was. And so, that's the same with me.
Yeah. Because there's no point building wealth for wealth's sake if you're not going to have fun.
Correct. Money's not going to go with you. You know what I mean? Yes, we're able to pass it on and then live a quality life. And I get that. And we want to take care of the kids and the next generations. But we also want to live a life that's meaningful. We've had a full crack at it. And for me, having a crack at life is actually what I'm doing in my business. Like for me, that's what I want to do. Like if I didn't want to do it, I'm okay with that. Like if people go to me, I can't do finance, whatever. Cool. Like that's fine. I'm more about just having a crack. And so for me, that's my big one.
Yeah. Awesome. So in terms of your day-to-day life, what's a really amazing day in the office look like for you?
get to go in there first. No.
I've never actually spoken to you, and we speak quite regularly in your office.
Yeah. Anyway, my perfect day in the office is actually probably 80% working on the business, and about 20% doing educational. So like if you had to say out of 8 hours, I would love to be doing 2 hours of educational content, 6 hours of business. And when I talk about business, I'm talking about, I'm still client obsessed, like that discussion that I had earlier. And it's a matter of going, okay, well, how can I innovate the business to give more value? Yeah. Because it's just that value, and keep on giving that. And for some that don't know me, I probably refer to myself more better in the business space, and being able to kind of link business with client. And so, you know, when people have their strengths and weaknesses, there's really good financial advisors that are really technical. Okay. And that's cool. And I do know the technical side, but my stronger point, and my key here is that link between business and client. And, you know, having that call about that father before, you know, being that entrepreneur, it was very much from an early age was client, value. And so, but I love it. Love
you can hear it in your voice, how much you love it. You like, you just love it. And it's, thank you for loving it, because I hate finance. I don't hate it. I love it, but
you'd rather do something else. You'd rather be on a cruise.
I'd rather be on a cruise that my financial advisor has helped me pay for. So you obviously have a team. You have a sizable team. What tools do you guys use to collaborate? Because everyone has different systems, and it's been interesting hearing them all over the years.
So it's evolved. Let me talk about that, like especially being remote. So we do have a chat system. Okay, so think about it like we've got rooms. Okay, so you'll have like your team room, which is kind of everyone needs to know this, chat. We then have team like team leaders, okay, where I can have direct contact with, and I'm going, team leaders, go do this, and, you know, interact like this. And then we'll have individual ones. So you'll find most of my day is just working through chat, you know, hey John. And, you know, as the business grows, from everyone talking to me, I'm trying to funnel that so that it's just through team leaders, because obviously I've got other jobs that I need to do. But we use a lot of chat. And I think the other one as well too that we use is that we have regular team meetings as well. So I don't like having meetings just for the sake of having meetings. So, you know, we need to be making sure that we've got agendas, you know, what are we trying to get out of this, and what's the action items and the follow-ups after that as well too. And so, and then as well too, we have every week we have self-assessments. So it's the ability for our team to create a feedback loop, where it's like where they think they're at, what they can do to improve, what others can do to improve, where's the business at, and what does that look like. And so that really keeps me close to the ground, with a finger on the pulse. And so that helps me to improve in areas that I may not have direct contact with. For example, the completion of forms. Is there a better way? How can we do that better? How can we make the client experience better? So on and so forth. So mainly chat, meetings, and feedback loops.
And Google Docs.
I think the whole Google system is important for us. Everyone's got different. They've got obviously the Microsoft system or the Google one. Listen, I've been on both, and there's no real preference to me. I think it's a matter of like Microsoft or Apple, like which one's the user preference in regards to how they like to use things. But in regards to what we do, like I said, chats, meetings, and feedback loops.
Awesome. So I always ask this question. One of the things that affects every entrepreneur I've ever met, except one, who I actually have interviewed on this podcast, and she's like, no, I don't get it, is imposter syndrome. So how do you deal with the bad days in business? Because what people probably don't realize about financial advisory is that there's a lot of counseling that goes on for your clients. Like you would often deal with clients in crisis. You would deal with clients who are, going through relationship breakups and all sorts of different life events that would, you're very heavily involved in people's lives. So how do you deal with all that stuff? Apart from drinking more coffee.
Yeah. Listen, I married a psychologist or in training one. So I said, I joke around with her that she stopped working in psychology because I'm going to be a patient for the rest of her life. So, but the reality is it is hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You hit the nail on the head. Imagine the last 2 years where people have gone from, potentially high, in some cases, high flying incomes, to JobKeeper. Small business owners really hurting. There's two things people have been thinking through COVID. And that's about their health and about their wealth. Yeah. And so a lot of financial advisors are on the front line of that, including myself. And, I haven't turned my back. Jane, you've obviously seen it directly. My communication, the be there has been gone from monthly contacts to in some cases daily contact, via some mediums, so it's hard, but once again, this is me, this is my passion. In hard times, I'm going to be there. So how I cope with it, my kids have helped. Yeah. My kids have helped. I try to take my mind off the business by being the imaginary kid again. Let's talk about it. I think every morning we've got a new fort out the back of the house.
I've built a lot of forts over the last 18 months.
They're getting big now. After 4.5 years, geez, we're nearly taking half the house out. It's that trying to take myself out of the business. Now, it's extremely hard. My father told me about this many, many times. And to be totally honest with you, maybe about 4 years ago, I went through major mental health problems. Major. I didn't want to get out of bed. I was suffering severely. And just to paint the picture, when the Royal Commission happened, it wasn't the big banks that just got grilled. If you were good, bad, ugly, whatever, everyone was painted with the same brush. And that killed me. It killed me because my values are solely focused around the client, and it hurt. And so what I did was, the best thing I did was I went and got a psychologist, and not just for, anxiety and depression. It wasn't because of that. I said to myself, if I'm going to do this properly, I need a mind coach. And I need to learn ways, like you would physically, if you wanted to go to, I don't know, bodybuilding, or you wanted to go look good, or whatever you wanted to do with your body, same as with your mind. So that's what I did. And I was probably at that stage, I was probably going once a week. Yeah. We then probably pushed that out to every 3 weeks or whatnot, but we worked, I became obsessed with my mind. And as you know me, Jane, but for the people that are listening or watching that, don't know me, if I do something, it's 110% or nothing. Yeah. There's no in between. And so it was either, not do that. Yeah. And not be that person. Yeah. Or just be that person and embrace it. And so that's what I did. I moved to 110%. Actually, people go, you're crazy. I said, no. That's where I do my best work. Yeah. Is when I'm in that highly active, fully focused state. Yeah. Got that mind training behind me. And I learned to stop beating myself up so much. And where this ultimately came from we're getting deep now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is because to get to where I am, I'm a perfectionist. And when you're a perfectionist, there's obviously problems that come with that. Okay. And so I've learned to kind of manage that perfectionism. Yeah. And move towards progress over perfection. Yeah. And for clients who are maybe listening to this or whatnot, you'll hear me say that, but that comes from me. So the way I now manage it is to more embrace life as a continuous learning curve where I'm becoming better and better. Yeah. Slowing down and walking before you run, and not there's in the pace in which I run at is the ability to say, I will get there. It's just not going to happen tomorrow. It might happen in 2 years from now. Okay. And just to paint the picture even more, when this was all happening, Royal Commission, post all of the reforms, in about a 6-month period, there was 23 financial advisors that killed themselves. So I know it wasn't the front of newspapers, and I know this wasn't all televised, but these are my colleagues. Yeah, these are my peers. These are people who are hurting. And so, yeah, I look at that time, and it's taught me to become mentally stronger. I feel for all of those families, and I wish everyone else can do the same. That's why I'm so open in talking about it, because I never want someone to be going through that. And, I consider myself very mentally resilient. You look at the journey of a 20-year-old going into financial services to go start a business, the accountant at the time laughing at me, no one's going to take me seriously. Like, to have that level of mental resilience to push through that, get through all the regulatory changes, get to 2021 alone. Mental resilience is there, but we all have bad times. It's then a matter of how we do that. And then backing yourself and having faith in yourself. Yeah. And I think this is where business owners, including myself, struggle for that. It's a matter of, looking in the mirror. Do they really want to hear what I have to say? Do they really want to hear what, I'm about? And you do question that. Yeah. But I'm learning to just be me.
Yeah.
And the more I'm me, the more that mirror is showing the true John. Yeah. And yes, so I think I'm probably with you, all the business owners that I see. It doesn't need to be just in business. I think in life as well too. We all have a little bit of, are we good enough as well?
And I don't know whether it is symptomatic. I think everyone has it in like C-suite businesses, every level, but it becomes magnified, I think, when you work, because you almost effectively a lot of the time work in a vacuum, especially if you work alone. You don't work alone, but it can be really challenging. So that's why I always bring it up, because how we respond to the bad days in business is just crucial. So how do you maintain your sense of community while living in lockdown in Melbourne?
That's an interesting one. Listen, I know some people beat up social media. But in a way, that's been mine and my wife's savior. It's over 200 days that we've been in lockdown, not able to see my parents, my brother, my sister, my nephews, my nieces, my friends. That's helped have a sense of community. And I think being that kind of self-driven kind of leader, I know there's a lot of people hurting. So I've been more focused on community. I've started 2 Facebook groups. I've really been out on social media, connecting, messaging people that I may have not have messaged in the past, doing a lot of networking. So I'll probably just ramped it up. Yes, to keep the community. I talk about Mind Coach. Yeah. I'm extroverted. I'm a social person. Like,
you are a social creature, John.
Yeah, I'm a social creature, and you take that away from me and I just crumble. So it's just that ability to just try and keep the community. And I've met some amazing people, in the last 2-3 years. and yeah, I think that's going to continue with me. I think actually my community and what I'm doing talk about, the friend in me, charitable organization, as much as I'm, wanting to promote social inclusion in children and whatnot. I think that's also a driven thing for me to get out of the community and actually give back. Yeah. And for me to introduce myself to other people, potentially people that are hurting as well, and be able to guide them, to a bit more of a fun state, a bit more of a happy state if I can.
Because it has been incredibly difficult for Melbourne. I mean, we're out of lockdown for the moment, but I don't know how long that will last. And yeah, there are so many people hurting by that lack of community because we took for granted, So anyway, I think we know the answer to this question, but what's your why? What keeps you motivated?
We may know the obvious answer, but I'm going to think deep for a moment.
Thinking face.
It's a big call, but I want to improve the financial literacy of as many people as I can. And I'm not talking about one or two people, if preference Australia. My kindergarten teacher once told my mum, this is like 4 or 5 years old, this kid will one day be the Prime Minister of Australia. Now, I don't necessarily want the top job, but I've always had a passion to change for the greater good. And I believe that going back to maybe my gifts or my talents, it is in money, it is in finance. And so being able to use that superpower that I've got and provide financial literacy to as many people as possible, some people who can't access it due to literally just financial reasons. If I can change that, amazing. If I can, try to keep the equal distribution of income as much as possible so that we don't have poverty, we do not have bad things like that where people can't even house themselves due to financial situations. That's my why. What I do now is one-to-one with clients at the moment. I'm obviously doing a lot more in the educational space. I'm tapping into, resources in schools and whatnot. But my why is to be remembered as a person who improved financial literacy in Australia.
That's your big vision. I love it. So what are your top tips for all the smart women in business across the world?
Okay. 3 tips or some tips.
Some tips, as many as you want. It could be one.
Number 1, believe you can be great. Many people may have heard, especially business owners and entrepreneurs, you're just a dreamer. Block those people out. Block them out. When someone says to you, dream about, getting to the moon, don't think about the moon, think about the stars. Don't restrict your mind, and believe in yourself to be great. That is number 1. 2, you will not get it right the first time. Okay?
Yep, 100%.
And don't beat yourself up about it. Okay? It'll take years and years and years and years and years until you may have perfected one process out of the 50 that you've got. Progress over perfection. Number 3, surround yourself with good people. Okay. My old man once told me, pay peanuts, get monkeys. Okay. And it's true. Most of us will try and cut costs to try and increase profitability. But if you pay for good advice from good people, it will pay itself back in spades. Okay. But when you talk about getting good people, base it on the values. Okay. Make sure your values are your core, and then surround yourself with the people with the same values. And then with the abilities that you need. Okay. They're my tips.
They're your tips. Amazing. Okay, so how can people find out more about you and your work, John?
So if you want to, probably the easiest way to find me these days is probably to jump on Instagram. Just go on Instagram, just type in the John Cachia, T-H-E, John, J-O-H-N, Cachia, C-A-C-H-I-A. That's probably the easiest way to find me. If you want to know more about the business and obviously what we do, just jump on the website, AFA Group Wealth.com.au, and you'll learn a little bit more about the team. But for people that just want to kind of get to know me, Instagram's probably the easiest one. It's a lot about my journey and what I can kind of give back, and obviously reach out. I'm happy to have a chat.
And I'll put all the links in the show notes. Thank you, John, for your time today. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks for having me, Jane, and to everyone listening, thanks for having me. And I'll speak to everyone at a later date, I'm sure. Cheers.